Patrick Mahomes is finally speaking out after returning to Chiefs training camp. Months after the injury that ended his season, he's opening up about his recovery, what's still bothering him, and how close he really is to being 100%. Let's get into it. Patrick Mahomes walked onto the practice field at Missouri Western State University with a brace strapped to his left knee, and for the first time since December, cameras were rolling on him doing football things again. This was the moment Chiefs fans had circled since the injury happened. The return to training camp, the first real test of whether the ACL and LCL tears that ended his 2025 season would actually keep him off the field in 2026. The Chiefs opened camp, and Mahomes led the Kansas City Chiefs onto the practice field, returning from a knee injury that cut short his previous season, wearing a brace on his left knee throughout the 90-minute workout, and completing the session without issue. That alone was newsworthy, but it's what he said afterward that made this the story everyone's been waiting on. Mahomes didn't hedge. He told reporters he always knew he was going to get back here, just because of his mindset and the people around him. That's confidence talking, but dig one layer deeper and you get something a lot more interesting. Mahomes admitting he wasn't even happy with how he was playing before the injury hit. He said he wasn't playing his best football last season before he got hurt, so he's got to find ways to get better, navigate the pocket, and run the offense better. That's Patrick Mahomes, two-time MVP, three-time Super Bowl champion, saying the guy who showed up in December wasn't good enough. Days later, at his first real press conference since the injury, he went further. He told reporters he feels stronger than he's ever felt, as far as strength and lifting weights go, and that he feels amazing and is excited just to be able to play football again. He talked about the monotony of rehab, describing the walls of the Chiefs facility as the only scenery he'd had for months. "I feel stronger than I've ever felt. As far as strength and lifting weights," Mahomes said, "I feel amazing. I'm excited just to be able to play football." He added that he'd been staring at cinder block walls, rehabbing every single day in Kansas City, and that getting back on the field with his teammates was going to be fun. Here's the thing though, Mahomes wasn't just cleared to jog around cones. Within days, he was in full team drills. The session marked Mahomes' return to full team work. After recovering from torn ACL and LCL injuries suffered in his left knee late last season, and ESPN's Ben Solak, watching it live, said Mahomes did just about everything you could ask him to do. That's not a guy easing in. That's a guy operating at close to full speed, less than 8 months removed from major knee surgery. And it's not just Mahomes talking. Andy Reid, who's coached him for 9 years now, weighed in with his own read on what he saw. According to Chiefs Wire's Charles Goldman, Reid told reporters that Mahomes looked pretty good, that he was strong, and that his feet were moving well. Reid said he thought it was positive. He thought Mahomes looked well. Coming from a coach who's watched this quarterback since he was a rookie, that's not a throwaway line. Then there's Dan Graziano, who spent the week embedded with the team watching every rep. He said everyone around the building is very happy with the progress Mahomes has shown recovering from the injury, and that the organization has a lot of faith. He'll speak up himself if something feels wrong. Graziano added that Mahomes wants to push things a little further, just to find out where the real limits are. And that so far, everything's pointed toward a Week 1 return, barring some kind of setback. 3 voices, Mahomes himself, Reid, and the reporters embedded at camp, all converging on the same story. The knee is holding. The player is moving. But there's a 4th voice in this that matters just as much, and it's the one that complicates the picture. Mahomes admitting on camera that something about this comeback still isn't finished. That's where we're headed next, because what he said about that missing piece is the real headline out of St. Joseph. Before we get to what Mahomes admitted was still missing, we need to talk about the detail that had reporters buzzing during his very first practices back, the knee brace, and the way he kept messing with it. Patrick Mahomes' return to the practice field was one of the biggest storylines of Chiefs training camp. And while the quarterback completed his first 2 practices without issue, reporters noticed him adjusting his knee brace several times during drills, raising questions about how comfortable he is nearly 8 months into his recovery. That's not a small thing to gloss over. When a guy who just had major reconstructive knee surgery keeps reaching down mid-drill to fuss with his hardware, people notice. The Athletic's Jesse Newell was one of the reporters watching closely, and he didn't sugarcoat what he saw. He said he saw Mahomes fidget with the brace a lot, that Mahomes kept reaching down, trying to tighten it, trying to move it. That's a direct, on-the-ground account from someone who had eyes on every single rep. So naturally, someone asked Mahomes about it directly, and here's where he gave one of his more honest answers of camp. He made clear that wearing the brace isn't some team mandate. It's entirely his call. It's not like I've been told I have to wear it or how long I have to wear it. Mahomes told reporters, "It's just going to be my comfortability, how I feel. But I will start with it on just because I feel like I can still move and be myself with it. I played with it in college and then we'll just see where we go from there." That's an important distinction. This isn't a doctor's order keeping him strapped in. It's Mahomes choosing caution for himself, on his own terms, while he figures out how much trust he actually has in the joint. Andy Reid, for his part, brushed off the fidgeting as no big deal. He'd already told reporters after that first full practice that Mahomes looked strong, that his feet were moving well, and that overall the outing was positive. But Reid also revealed just how closely the coaching staff is watching every mechanical detail. He said he's not the doctor, but he's keeping a close eye on the small things, technique-wise, throughout camp. That's Andy Reid, a coach who's had this quarterback rewrite the record books, admitting he's personally scrutinizing every step Mahomes takes on that knee. Now, here's where the story shifts from body language to actual words. Because what Mahomes told reporters about his own head is the piece that cuts through all the surface-level optimism. Speaking during a camp session, Mahomes made a direct admission that the hardest part of this whole comeback isn't the physical rehab anymore. Mahomes admitted the final hurdle isn't physical. Instead, it's regaining the complete confidence that only comes from taking his first hit and continuing to make plays after returning from a serious knee injury. Read that again. This is a guy who's been medically cleared, who's running full-team drills, who Andy Reid is praising publicly, and he's still telling the world that the actual finish line hasn't been crossed yet. Not because his knee can't take it, because he hasn't been hit yet. Practice doesn't have contact. Nobody's allowed to touch the quarterback. So no matter how many reps he takes, no matter how clean his footwork looks, there's a mental box that simply can't be checked until a 260-pound pass rusher actually gets a hand on him in a live game. Mahomes didn't just state that, he explained exactly how he knows it, because he's lived through this movie before. Back in 2019, he dislocated his kneecap against Denver, and the recovery process back then hinged on the exact same unknown. He told reporters he remembers facing that same challenge after the kneecap injury, and he believes the process is going to look similar this time around. You'll never know until you get out there and you get hit and make plays. Mahomes told reporters, "That's just kind of part of it, but I trust the process that I've been through." He went even further back into that 2019 memory to make his point land. 25 days after he returned from the dislocated kneecap, he scrambled away from pressure against the Titans and leaped into the air to find Mecole Hardman for a signature touchdown throw, a play that's been replayed 1,000 times since, as one of the great highlights of his career. But Mahomes revealed the real story behind that leap wasn't showmanship at all. "It looks cool," Mahomes recalled, "but I actually did it because I was trying to get my knee out of there." In other words, that iconic jump everyone remembers as a display of pure confidence was actually him instinctively protecting a joint he didn't fully trust yet. That's the blueprint he says he's following now. "Then I'll take that first hit, just like you do every regular season. And then you get back to play football, a game you love," he said. It's almost matter of fact the way he said it. Like getting hit is just the next box to check, not something to fear. But the fact that he's bringing it up unprompted, repeatedly, tells you it's weighing on him more than the highlight reel confidence lets on. So now the story has two tracks running at once. On one side, the medical clearance, the full practices, Reid's praise, the brace that's a choice rather than a requirement. On the other, an honest quarterback telling you flat out that none of that settles the real question in his own head. That tension, physically ready, mentally unresolved, is exactly where this story sits heading into the next stretch of camp. And it's about to get tested by the people around him who know his game better than anyone. If Mahomes himself is being cautious about declaring victory, the people who share a locker room and a huddle with him have been watching just as closely, and their read on where he actually stands says just as much as anything Mahomes has said himself. Start with Travis Kelce. The two of them have built one of the most productive quarterback-tight end partnerships in league history. And after a summer that saw Kelce's own future in question, the pair were back on the same field together for the first time since the injury. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce have spent nearly a decade developing one of the NFL's most productive quarterback-tight end partnerships. And during a training camp practice in St. Joseph, Missouri, Mahomes connected with Kelce for a touchdown that drew one of the loudest reactions of the day from fans in attendance, coming just days after Mahomes returned to the field following his recovery. No verbal quote necessary there. The connection itself was the statement. Two guys who've done this 1,000 times, picking up right where a season-ending injury interrupted them. Then there's the coach, whose read on Mahomes has been the most consistent through line of camp. Reed has repeated some version of the same message multiple times now, and it's worth noting how deliberately measured his language has stayed. He told reporters early in camp that Mahomes is doing great with his rehab, that right now he's got clearance to practice and do all the different periods in camp, and that the team is just going to take it day by day and see how he does. That's not a coach hyping his guy up for headlines. That's a coach managing expectations in real time, which tells you the organization itself isn't totally settled on how far to push things yet. Reed went a step further later in camp, describing just how much oversight is actually happening behind the scenes. He'll have plenty of eyes on him from coaches to trainers to doctors, Reed said, which paints a picture of a franchise treating every single rep Mahomes takes as data to be logged and reviewed, not just another practice snap. And then there's the offensive skill group itself, the guys Mahomes is actually throwing to. For the first time since December, he's been running live reps alongside running back Kenneth Walker III, alongside Kelsey, and alongside receivers Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton. For the first time since his injury in December, Mahomes went through repetitions alongside his top skill position players, running back Kenneth Walker III, tight end Travis Kelce, and wide receivers Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, and Tyquan Thornton. Reed summed up what that group presence means for a quarterback rebuilding trust in his own body. He's been working so hard that you have a pretty good feel that he's in a good place, Reed said. Mahomes himself picked up on exactly why having bodies around him again mattered, even without contact involved. He explained that even without getting hit, there's real value in simply operating the offense at full speed, with everyone in the right spots. I don't get hit, so that's one part of it. But it's good to be out there and have bodies around and be able to go through and run the offense. Mahomes said, I want Reed to call plays like we're going to call it in the regular season. That's going to be the best way for me to prepare myself. I want to go out there and test the knee. That last line is the one worth sitting with. He wants to test the knee, not just protect it, not just get through camp unscathed. He's actively looking for situations that push it, because a comeback built entirely on caution doesn't tell him anything about whether he can actually trust it in week 1. Beyond the huddle, the story extended to Mahomes' own family. His wife posted a message ahead of camp, offering support as he stepped back into football activity for real, a small but telling sign of how much the household had built its calendar around this specific week. It's the kind of detail that gets lost next to the on-field footage, but it underscores how much this camp arrival had been anticipated inside Mahomes' own circle, not just by the fan base. Meanwhile, outside the walls of the facility, the doubts about Mahomes and the Chiefs hadn't gone anywhere. Kansas City was left off Sports Illustrated's list of Super Bowl contenders heading into the season, and Mahomes himself dropped out of the top spot on ESPN's quarterback rankings, finishing behind Josh Allen for the first time in years. Kansas City was not listed as a Super Bowl contender on Conor Orr's Sports Illustrated list of 14 teams, and Mahomes also fell from his top spot on ESPN's quarterback rankings, finally falling behind Josh Allen. For a player who spent his entire prime being the answer to every ranking question in football, that's a new experience, and it's happening at the exact moment his own body is the biggest variable of his career. So you've got Kelce's chemistry returning like nothing happened. You've got Reed tracking every mechanical detail with medical staff at his side. You've got the skill players rebuilding rhythm with their quarterback in real time. And you've got outside voices increasingly skeptical that any of it will be enough. All of that pressure is converging on one specific date circled on the calendar. And that's where the real test begins. Every storyline in this camp keeps circling back to one number, week 1. Mahomes has said it. Reed has confirmed it. The Chiefs' entire camp plan has been built around it, and the date attached to that game is what turns all of this from a feel-good recovery story into something with actual stakes. Kansas City opens its season at home against Denver on September 14th, the same Broncos team that won the AFC West while the Chiefs were sidelined from the postseason for the first time in a decade, with reigning AFC West champion Denver on the schedule for week 1. Mahomes has zeroed in on the season opener as a game he couldn't afford to miss. I don't want to miss that game against the Broncos, because that's the team that won the division while we were gone, and you want to be out there and ready to go with your teammates. Mahomes said in a mid-July interview, I'll give every single thing I can to be out there week 1. That's not a throwaway line about circling a date on a schedule. That's Mahomes explicitly naming Denver as the team that took what used to belong to Kansas City, and making clear he views the opener as a chance to answer that directly. Reid's staff seems to be building the entire camp calendar around getting him there in one piece. The Chiefs have leaned into a patient approach specifically because of what's at stake. After being cleared for full participation, Mahomes has steadily increased his workload without experiencing any setbacks, keeping him firmly on track for the regular season opener. And the Chiefs have deliberately used the opening week of camp to evaluate how his surgically repaired left knee responds to football movements, with Mahomes practicing in a knee brace, participating in team drills, and testing his mobility outside the pocket as his confidence continues to grow. Dan Graciano's on the ground, reporting backs that up with more specifics about exactly what the team is monitoring. He explained that the brace itself is something Mahomes is still adjusting to, and that the entire month of camp is designed around figuring out how much of the old Mahomes, the guy who rolls out, who throws off platform, who makes what Graziano called those crazy sideline throws, is actually still available to this offense. The knee brace is kind of something he'll have to get used to. He's out here on the practice field kind of adjusting. That's what this month will be for, especially as the work starts to ramp up. Really, it's just about how much Mahomes we're going to see. Throughout training camp, he'll be seeing how the leg responds if he rolls out or wants to make those crazy sideline throws. Kansas City still has 45 days until its regular season opener against the Denver Broncos, giving Mahomes ample time to continue building confidence in his knee before the games begin to count. That window matters because Mahomes' game has never been about standing in a clean pocket and going through progressions like a textbook quarterback. His entire identity as a player is built on the scramble, the no-look, the throw across his body while falling away from a rusher. If the knee can't do those things the way it used to, it's not just a health story. It changes what kind of quarterback the Chiefs actually have on the field come September. Which brings up the preseason question, because that's the next real checkpoint before games start counting. Reid's staff has to decide whether Mahomes gets snaps in an actual preseason game, something that would be new territory for him. If Mahomes continues to progress well, the Chiefs will have to decide if he will play in one of the first 2 preseason games to further prepare for week 1. And throughout his 9-year career, Mahomes has never missed the entire preseason. That streak, small as it sounds, actually matters. It means every previous version of Mahomes heading into a season had at least some form of live contact under his belt before week 1 counted. This year, for the first time, that might not happen at all, which puts even more weight on whatever happens the moment defenders are finally allowed to hit him. The uncertainty isn't limited to Mahomes either. It's part of a broader injury picture hanging over this Chiefs roster heading into 2026. Micah Parsons tore his ACL the same day Mahomes did. And when reporters asked Parsons about his own week 1 outlook, he gave a far more conservative answer than Mahomes did, saying realistically he's looking more at week 3 or week 4. That contrast matters. It shows Mahomes isn't just optimistic by nature. He's specifically choosing the most aggressive possible target for his own return, even as a comparable injury elsewhere in the league is tracking toward a much more cautious timeline. Elsewhere on the Chiefs roster, the injury news has been rougher. Rashee Rice had off-season surgery to clean up loose bodies in his knee, further complicated by a legal situation that put him behind bars for part of his rehab window, though Reid has said he expects Rice back for camp. The timing of Rashee Rice's surgery to remove loose bodies from his knee could not have been much worse, as he was jailed days later for violating his probation, though the Chiefs' medical staff constructed a recovery plan that allowed the wide receiver to rehabilitate his knee during his month behind bars. And Coach Andy Reid said he anticipates Rice being ready for training camp. Training camp itself has already claimed 2 more Chiefs this summer, a defensive end and a tight end, both suffering serious injuries before the season even started. A reminder of how unpredictable this stretch of the calendar can be even for players who weren't nursing anything going in. All of that swirls around the central figure of this entire camp. Every rep Mahomes takes gets logged against a countdown to Denver. Every fidget with the brace gets analyzed. Every rollout gets watched by trainers, coaches, and reporters, all trying to answer the same question. Mahomes already answered for himself, that the real verdict doesn't come from a stat sheet or a scouting report. It comes from what happens the first time somebody actually gets a hand on him when it counts. So where does all of this actually leave things heading towards September 14th? The pieces are all on the table now. The medical clearance, the brace he's choosing to wear. The fidgeting reporters keep noticing Reed's cautious optimism. The teammates rebuilding chemistry rep by rep, and Mahomes' own admission that none of it means anything until real contact happens. What's changed most since camp opened is the tone of the updates coming out of St. Joseph. What started as a story about whether Mahomes would even be cleared has shifted into a story about stacking good days on top of each other. Mahomes was back on the practice field for a third consecutive day as the Chiefs continued training camp, an encouraging milestone in his recovery from the knee injury that ended his 2025 season. 3 days in a row without incident might sound small, but for a joint that was surgically rebuilt 8 months earlier, consistency is the whole ball game. Mahomes has been marking that progress in his own way too. After his first full week back, he posted a carousel of photos to social media. A carousel of photos from the Chiefs' first full week of training camp, with the opening image immediately catching fans' attention, showing the quarterback leaping off both legs, including his surgically repaired left knee, while pointing toward the sky. He didn't caption it with words, just his signature alarm clock emoji, the same symbol he's used for years to signal that it's time to get to work. Sometimes the loudest statement is the one made without saying anything at all. A guy jumping off a knee that used to be the whole story, mid-practice, just because he could. The Kelsey connection kept building too, adding a layer of normalcy back into a camp that had spent its first week fixated on a single joint. Their touchdown connection wasn't just good football. It was a signal to a fan base that had spent 8 months bracing for the worst, that the version of this offense they remember might genuinely still be intact. And beyond the highlight plays, there were smaller moments. Mahomes and Kelce taking time after practice to sign autographs for young fans lining the fences, the kind of routine camp interaction that this year carried a little more weight, given everything that led up to it. But the honest through line running underneath all of it is the one Mahomes himself keeps returning to, unprompted, every time reporters put a microphone in front of him. He is not declaring this finished. He's not saying the comeback is complete. He's saying over and over that the version of confidence he actually needs doesn't exist yet, because it can't. Not in a padded practice where nobody's allowed to touch the quarterback. Not in a walkthrough. Not even in live 11-on-11 team periods where the whole point is protecting the guy running the offense. That's what makes his own words about the 2019 kneecap injury so revealing. He didn't bring up that memory to reassure anyone that everything would be fine. He brought it up because it's the only reference point he has for what he's about to go through again. The specific, singular experience of stepping onto a field knowing that at some point, without warning, someone bigger and faster than him is going to make contact with the leg he spent 8 months rebuilding. And the only way to know how his body and his mind respond to that moment is to actually live through it. There's a version of this story where that first hit comes in the preseason opener against the Rams at Arrowhead, comes clean, and Mahomes shakes it off like it's nothing, just another Sunday. There's another version where it takes longer, where the Chiefs hold him out of live preseason snaps entirely, for the first time in his career, and the real test doesn't come until the lights are on for real against Denver. Either way, the answer to the only question that actually matters won't come from a training camp practice report, no matter how many times Reed tells reporters he liked what he saw. What we do know, from Mahomes' own mouth, is what he's chasing. Not a cleared MRI, not a coach's compliment, not a highlight throw to Kelsey in a padded practice with no pass rush. He's chasing the exact moment he described, getting hit, getting back up, and playing the game he loves the same way he always has. Everything else, the brace, the fidgeting, the rankings drop, the missed Super Bowl run, the questions about whether this is still his league to lead, all of it sits downstream of that one collision that hasn't happened yet. For now, the Chiefs have their quarterback back on the field, moving well, throwing well, and saying all the right things about trusting a process he's been through once before. Whether that trust holds up the first time it's actually tested is the one thing training camp, by its very nature, can never tell you. That answer is still 45 days away, sitting on the other side of a season opener, against the team that took his division while he was gone.